There we go. Thanks for supporting our conservation program. Even by watching today, that is huge. It is a family program. It's rated PG, so to keep that in mind when we're using the chat box. Please no profanity in case there's children watching. We'll keep it PG too with video and all. So this is part of a Nevada fish series, mainly focused on Southern Nevada fish, and striped bass fishing is really hot right now. And I see a lot of great posts from people, a lot of guys able to get out and girls get out and catch some awesome fish. I know one of my favorite times of the year is the opportunity to catch a boil. So we'll go over that a little bit too. And then Nicole will moderate for us if we have any questions. And I'll let Brendan introduce himself. Thank you.
Oh, it's my turn. Hey guys, how you guys all doing? Welcome everybody. My name is Brendan, if you don't know me already. And I'm just helping out Abby today, just guest paneling, here to answer any questions and to help out with whatever she needs.
So yeah, if there's any continuing questions later on, he's got some great tutorial videos here or some pictures from previous fishing trips, and not just here, hitting the ocean too in some COVID times. And then a great kayak angler, and that's actually what got us into all of this. We'll go over that too. If you have the fishing guide or don't have the fishing guide, Nicole shared it in the chat. You can actually just click on the link and download it. It's great to keep on your phone. It's awesome to have just a copy, a digital option, so you don't have to have the paper one around. We do have paper ones at the office or at the sporting goods stores if you do need one. Before you get going, make sure you do have your fishing license. If you're 12 or older, you do need one. 12 to 17, there is the youth option. It's $16 for a whole year. That's just a little over $1 a month to have a great fishing opportunity every single month. And then for adults, it's around $41. Also, there are some great websites. TakeMeFishing.org has fishing trip checklists if you're new to fishing. So definitely check something like that out. That way you don't forget the bait, your favorite lure at home. It also keeps in mind making sure you have fresh line in case you're throwing out an awesome, huge lure to catch some of the bigger stripers. You definitely want some good line on there. And know your water. So that's why we're doing these series, so that you can kind of get into knowing some of these waters, but it's something as an angler you should really practice and try out yourself. And one of the examples I have is that our urban ponds only have a 3 fish limit. So if you're out there, you catch a bluegill and a catfish, that means you only have one more opportunity to catch a fish. So please keep that in mind. We do have that limit so that there are more opportunities for beginning anglers at the urban ponds. If you're totally experienced, highly recommend getting out to some of the bigger waters and maybe even driving a couple hours. And double check the weather too. Know your conditions so you don't get stranded out at the lake. In some of the shoreline access, there's the opportunity of getting stuck. It's really soft in some edges. There's some sand along some of the roads out there. So just know your weather and know your location. Where to fish, we have it on our website. You can definitely check that out. And you can search by body of water and it gives you this awesome map. So this is a Google map, something you can even create yourself. You can kind of see it up here. Hard to get a better quality for this one, but you can even make one of all your favorite fishing spots. And I know I'm starting to make one too for our ponds, and our app is about to go live for our fishable waters, where we actually inserted the fish, about the fishery and everything like that, and when we'll stock. So all that will be in our new app too. Just wanted to throw that out. I don't have a picture of it to advertise for you guys, but as soon as we find out, we'll definitely post it to Facebook and social media. And this is an example from the regulations pages for Southern Region. It's right in the middle of the guide, and you use the code over here. So striped bass is the STB, and then you look at the bodies of water and find out which ones would have the STB in it. So Lake Mead, Mojave, pretty much anywhere along the Colorado River. And in the guide too, our bigger species that people go after are listed with a description of what you're looking for so that you don't mix it up. The biggest problem is something like bluegill and a tilapia. When they're young fry, they look similar, but make sure that when you're going after the tilapia, you're not actually accidentally going after a bluegill. So just something to keep in mind, and go ahead and look over the fish species if you're not really familiar with all of them. They look totally different underwater than they do on your boat. Some more facts for you. Striped bass are conserved and managed, and we actually do a lot of surveys to kind of see where they're at, where they're congregating, what they're eating. We do creel surveys, so if somebody comes up to you and asks you what you're catching, it really does help us, even when you guys report them on FishBrain or other apps. And actually, if we want to open the chat, Nicole, and see what your favorite apps are, we'll go ahead and put those in while we're talking. So while you guys are listening, go ahead and type into the chat what your favorite app is to use. Those are all part of citizen science and creel surveys for us. And then sometimes we'll be able to get out to the water, and obviously not so much with COVID. And originally they came from the ocean and were able to survive in fresh water. It's one of those awesome fish that are androgynous. So they can actually go from saltwater to freshwater and back, just like a salmon up north. And so, yeah, they do great down here. Obviously, they just need big bodies of water. And we can see why. They get up to 63 pounds is our record, and about 52 inches. So there was one cat, I think last year at a Lake Powell, and it was almost as big as the girl holding it up. So that was pretty neat to see. So yeah, we'll go over those too in a minute. Oh. So we're gonna get right into some of these. So go ahead, Brennan. I don't want to totally bore everyone with all my stuff. So when you're going out and you're trying to go after these, what do you look for, and what do you do to get on some fish like this? Oh, I think you're still, there we go.
I think I'm unmuted now. Oh, right. All right. So typically, if I'm looking for some bigger striped bass, like you see in the picture, I'll be fishing anywhere on the river, which means anywhere below the dam all the way to Mojave, all the way to the Davis Dam. Typically, that body of river tends to hold some bigger fish. Lake Mead, you would go to usually find some smaller striper. There, you can find some bigger ones, but they're harder to find, definitely. But yeah, I'll be fishing usually the river, and trying out multiple times during the day. I might focus at night, spend some time fishing at night, see how that goes, and I just kind of trying to figure out the pattern is usually what I try to do.
Getting to know those waters.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You have to put a lot of time in on those waters.
So as you're going out and checking all these, here's an example of this app. So using FishBrain, some of the big hot spots, obviously Lake Mead, and then places with shore access are Government Wash, Kingman Wash, Hemingway, Colville, and Echo. And needless to say, this the last 6 months have been pretty inundated with shore access, but it seems to be guys getting out on the water too. And then those are also good launch spots. So just careful with that. If you see a lot of guys out there, maybe try another spot. Willow Beach, early morning is really good fishing, and it's also your best opportunity to get down there. There have been some weekends at Willow that they actually have to close because there's no more parking available. So getting out there early, and then like Brandon was saying with the swim baits and jointed baits, getting out deeper into the water is best. And then Mojave, and then so yeah, download the FishBrain app, or the chat is open if you guys want to brag about your favorite app in there. Now's the time to do it. The more people on an app, the better the information's going to be. And not necessarily like you don't have to show your spots. Definitely don't want to go there. But it's just good to kind of get an idea of what is being caught seasonally too. So some of the spots we look for striped bass: deep pockets, coves, rocky bottoms, and some good vegetation where they're creeping along the outside looking for a good food source. And obviously rivers and lakes where they have big waters. Anything else that you look for from the top, Brennan?
If I'm looking for those bigger ones, especially on the river, I'm going to be trying to imitate a trout, since over at Willow Beach, they do stock trout weekly. And you just kind of have to imagine what those trout are going to be doing. If you think they're going to be swimming out to deeper waters, trying to get away, then you want to try to focus on those spots. If you think, early in the morning, they might be more towards, hugging the shoreline, then focus on those spots. Usually coves and points are all really good. Usually towards the later in the day, deeper waters tends to be a little bit better.
Yeah, especially during the summer, the water is going to be warmer in the afternoon, so cooler towards the shoreline, and as the day gets warmer, further out in the deeper ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're opportunistic, and like he was saying, they feed on the rainbow trout below Willow Beach, well, up and down from Willow Beach. So food or lures that look like the plankton that they're eating, insects, crustaceans. So I bring these two up too, because you can actually fish with a spin cast with a fly that looks like a shad, so or like an insect. And so depending on what's out there, we've found all of this in our surveys too with striped bass. So, I mean, please go ahead and, yes, they have been stocking Willow. And go ahead and put in the chat or Q&A your favorite lure. Or if you caught some smaller stripers and you've seen them eating certain things, go ahead and put in their favorite food source too.
Yeah, this time of the year, guys, a lot of shad at Lake Mead or in the bigger bodies of water. There's lots of shad going on. So you want to imitate those baits. Obviously, crawdads are going to be always good. Over at if you go to the river, you go to Willow Beach, you'll see lots of crawdads all the time. Other fishermen that I've known that have cut open the stomachs have found trout, shad, and crawdads all in one striper. So. And shad, just everything all in one striper. So they're moving up and down a lot throughout the day. They get some distance.
That's awesome. And our crawdads aren't just red. There's definitely some green ones out there too. So that's definitely that red and green for plastics and creatures. Those are always good to throw too. You're looking to get real specific, right?
Saltwater season.
Guys, I have a question for you real quick. A question from Steven. If you're not using a lure with hooks already on it, what type and size hooks are good to use with different baits? He said he always gets hits, but then he can't hook them.
I would say circle, like a more of a circle hook then if it's getting off, and I would go like a, honestly, like a 1 or 2, and make sure you got a good size piece of anchovy, but not the whole thing. So I've definitely seen that thrown out there, but when you're bait fishing, you want to make sure that they're getting into the mouth. So you're probably getting hits if you're using a whole anchovy or too big of a piece. But if you use a smaller hook that's going to fit in the mouth and they're going to want to swallow it, that's your opportunity to hook it.
Yeah, I think for stripers, I mean, if you're bait fishing, a 1/0 circle, you can't beat it. And you don't really need to set the hook on those. They're kind of self-setting, and the way those hooks are angled, they tend to not to pull those so much.
Yeah, so definitely try maybe something a little smaller. So yeah, here's some pictures too of them chasing pieces of fish, spoons, and then yeah, anchovies. Threadfin shad are definitely available. And then gizzard shad too can be pieced up. Just make sure it is a gizzard shad, and that you keep the head so that if a game warden does see that you're fishing with fish, they can ID it.
Yeah, just familiarize yourself with what game fish are out there, and you'll be fine.
And I don't know if we ended up putting in, one more reason to recommend people to your YouTube channel is out there. I did get a good clip of, is that Tony's, the Centauro?
That one is a Garcia lure made by
Garcia
Tony
lure.
Garcia. Yeah, so a lot of those big plugs that I use to catch some of those big stripers are custom made, and it's made by that one there is made by Tony Garcia, and that's his trout pattern. That one I think is, I want to say a total of maybe 15 or 16 inches in length. It's pretty big.
And so that size fish went after that big of a lure too. So just an idea for you guys watching. They'll definitely, if they're in that mood, they'll chase it. So, and that's when get a good hook on it. And then here's a picture of a way to set up your anchovies on the bottom. Especially for Lake Mead and with the boat traffic and everything like that, you definitely want a bigger sinker. And I do even recommend like a bullet sinker, just making sure that it's set up point and up so that it can cut through the rocks easily, or brush or any of those plants that are underwater. So if you're bait fishing off the bottom, just make sure that it's set up to be able to break out and free from the rocks if it gets stuck on that, or even if you find an awesome cliff face. That's definitely an opportunity to fish off the, question for you, Brendan, too, is what do those Tony Garcia lures weigh?
I'm not sure exactly. I could tell you if you just give me a couple of minutes, I can tell you.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Because I'll ask the man himself and he'll tell me exactly how much it weighs. But yeah, I'll give you an answer.
Awesome. And then while at Willow answered another question. The river was down 4 to 6 feet in places, a lot more grass. In the coves, I like to kayak was an issue. It's this time of year for weeds, unfortunately. It's just something we have to battle in the desert with the sun and everything like that. What lure would we want to use to cut through the weeds?
It's pretty tough. It's a kind of a problem I'm having, and kind of a question I'm trying to answer myself, because I'm having that same exact problem. And you'll find it that the weeds can be better at certain times of the day, and it's one of those things that you have to be super patient during this time of the year with all those weeds coming up, because in the morning it might be a little bit better, but as more people go out, those boats go up and down that river, it starts to really turn up those weeds, and it gets worse throughout the day. So there are some spots that are better than others, but it's definitely an issue that everybody is dealing with right now. And you just got to be patient, constantly checking those lines as often as possible, just being really sensitive and getting used to how that lure feels normally and how it feels when you got some stuff caught on it. And that way you can check it, but you have to check it often right now. It's pretty bad.
Okay. So the other question was, yes, so this is a Carolina rig. The benefit to this is if you do put a plastic on it and they're in that mood and you can get it to imitate some live action, because they're definitely chasing the fish right now. So maybe even a lighter worm. That is definitely going to be an opportunity too, to kind of cut through the weeds, and it creates a weedless hook, but they'll definitely have to be in predator mode to get that good bass bite. So you can definitely try those Carolina rigs with like a creature, and like we were saying, they eat the crawdads up. So getting a plastic that looks like a crawdad's always good. All right, get this moving. There we go. So why Brennan's enjoying the heat in his garage is he's got a pretty awesome setup, and obviously you guys have seen it's successful. So if you're up for it, if you want to show some of your rigs and how you set up your kayak kind of, and then this is kind of our test run. And then eventually we'll be able to go out live and actually show the full kayak fishing setup and hopefully do a class next year.
Okay, let me make sure I'm not muted. Okay, I didn't have a whole lot prepared, but I'll show you the kayak and see if I can really get this going for you guys a little bit better. I apologize. So this is a 12.5-foot kayak. It looks pretty big, and the reason why I went with this is a Pelican kayak, and the reason why I went with this particular model is because it has a huge open layout. As you can see, this is a sit-on-top kayak, and the difference is obviously one is a sit-in that you sit inside, and this one is a sit-on-top. And I just love that huge open layout. It has everything I need. I didn't really have to make too many adjustments or additions to it, but it does the trick. And you don't have to have something like this, guys. This is something that I obviously upgraded to. I used a regular sit-in kayak with a paddle for a long time, and after a while I upgraded because I wanted something that was a little bit better. So this is what I got going right now. I'm not sure what else you would like me to show, Abby, because I don't really have anything set up on it right now because it's kind of sitting on there.
Do you use the crate behind you?
I got the crate I use is this guy right here. You can see that orange guy, and it has basically everything I need on here. It has 4 pull holders, as you can see. It has a top deck, and it has a bottom shelf that I have basically small stuff, a lot of my net, my fins, my mask, extra tackle boxes, anything you want to put in there. I have a emergency pack in there. You never know what it's going to be like, anything what may happen when you're out there on the river. So always make sure you plan ahead. Always have an emergency pack out there. And I don't know, that's about it. Everything else is not attached to it, so I can't show too much.
No worries. Yeah, we'll have to go out and have this all set up. And do you recommend the sit on top versus the sit-in kayak for Lake Mead and the river system?
I do, because we don't have like really super cold weather, And a sit on top allows you to, you know, if you need to get in the water, I love the just when it's hot outside, you can just jump off and you don't have to, it's easy to get back on. And yeah, you get that big open layout I was talking about. It when you have a sitting kayak, everything has to kind of get stored or tucked underneath. You don't have anything really as accessible as you would with a sit on top. But I have to usually wear some kind of like some waders or some waterproof pants or something during the winter time, because I'm fishing usually year round out here.
It's a good idea for those. Is the Pelican sit on top capable to support you if there's a need for you? Oh yeah, for you to stand up.
Oh, I did. Yeah, you can stand up. It's very wide, super stable. I can walk all over it when I'm on it. Usually I'll dive and stuff off of it.
Awesome. Um, oh, wireless, I'll answer this one. The striped bass on Mojave are bigger. It is deeper running water, and they also have a better food source. So on Lake Mead, I also believe that, well, and we have seen some bigger ones on Lake Mead during surveys. So the fish do learn
Yeah,
that.
they're there, but they're definitely mystery to find.
Lake
But
Mead, whole different thing. My boss and I talk about that all the time. And catching bass on Lake Mead's like different than catching bass anywhere else. It's just a whole different animal. So again, it goes back to just testing them and checking them out. There's just more schools too. We do just see smaller schools of striped bass. It's easier to find. That's what the birds are eating when we're driving around.
yeah, there's just on Lake Mead, there's a lot more fish. So when you have that many of a certain species, they tend not to grow as much or as big when there's so many of them. Over in that river system, there tends to be a smaller population. So from my understanding, that's one of the reasons why they get bigger on that body of water.
Awesome. We'll answer this. Several questions aside from the custom swim baits, what are your favorite artificial lures for this type of year? Do you use anything like a Pro Cure or artificial scents?
If you have any kind of swim baits, Savage Gear makes a lot of like line through swim baits that I've caught fish on. There's some trout pattern jerk baits and bigger jerk baits that work there. Some more affordable stuff like the BBZ made by Spro is the trout pattern, so that lures work pretty good. Yeah, there's a couple different options, but out of those, I'd say to stick with some swim baits if you're not going to get some of the custom plugs and stuff.
Yeah, anything that looks like so yeah, definitely more for Mojave. It's definitely more rainbow trout. Do you have a lot of success for that on meat as well?
For mead, I switch it up, and it's usually, especially this time of year, it's all shad stuff right now. Either little shad swim baits like Kitech, stuff on little jig heads to like rattle traps, lipless crankbaits that are shad, regular crankbaits that are shad profile. Anything shad right now is really, really good for striper. Top water is really big. If you get out in the morning, hopefully you can see some boils this time of year. Them chasing some shad around, it's really awesome to see. You'll see all the shad just jumping up in the air, trying to get away. Top water season, any top water baits, spooks, stuff that walk the dog style baits, whopper ploppers, any of that kind of top water stuff is going to be really good right now.
Yeah, so it goes back to just remembering their food source. So knowing your water. Lake Mead, they're feeding a lot on threadfin shad, and then on Mojave, they're feeding on rainbow trout mainly.
Yeah, and then as you get down towards the actual Mojave, the bigger area, it they're feeding on shad also down there.
I was going to say even bluegill. So if you,
Yeah.
those bluegill swim baits too, there's tons of bluegill down towards Cottonwood. Oh, this is for you. How would you store a kayak outside if you didn't have a garage? Would the summer heat ruin the hull? Also, what are your thoughts on the Hobie inflatable kayaks with the drive?
I haven't done much research on the new inflatable Hobies, so I can't answer that one. I'm sorry about that. As far as storing it outside, it kind of depends on the material your kayak is made out of. The kayak behind me, the Pelican, the material that's made out of, it is extremely durable. And the way it's made, it's heated up at a high temperature and kind of pressed together. So I'm actually able to keep my kayak in the back of my truck for multiple days out in the super hot sun without it melting or bending or warping or anything like that. So it really kind of depends on the quality or the material that your kayak is made out of. I believe Hobie is also made out of that similar material. So you should be good with something like that. But usually the thinner style plastics are using, it's not recommended to store outside if you can.
And I'd even say if you have to do that, just something to cover it to reflect the light and there's all the covers. Even a basic car cover would definitely be beneficial so that it doesn't beat down on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then both lakes do technically have the same bait fish, but the thing is to answer this question, they concentrate in certain areas. So our fisheries biologists, and actually that'll be another awesome webinar or a live, we're working on how to work all that out. We're going to interview our bass biologist for Mojave, and they actually go out at least once a year. They set up nets and they see what fish are bait fish and predatory fish, and just kind of get an idea. And they do creel census surveys all the time. The thing is just fish school. So certain areas are better for certain fish. So bluegill, people have caught them in Government Watch and down towards Cottonwood, but you're not going to see the dam where the cooler water's coming out. The rainbow trout do really well on Mojave because the water stays cool all year round, and the water level only fluctuates like 5 or 6 feet. On Lake Mead, we all see how much the water fluctuates, and it also gets really warm, and that is no environment for a rainbow trout to survive year round. And the quagga mussels just are way more intense on Mead because of the temperature of the water. So yes, they are the same bait fish, but it depends on what is really there and where you're able to fish too. It's your access as well that's going to change it up. To you, Brennan, does a Lifetime brand kayak compare to a Pelican made in regards to durability? And would you happen to know that?
I
guess that goes back to you saying like the plastic.
I'm gonna say no. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. If I mean, there are probably some Pelican kayaks. They have so many different kinds. So if I'm gonna compare it to the one I have, I'm gonna say no. They're not gonna be similar. But if you're there, I mean, I'm sure there are some Pelican ones that do compare. But I think the Lifetime ones are more of a cheaper, affordable kayak for a brand.
Beginning.
I don't believe they're going to be similar quality. Yeah.
I actually found one good YouTube video where they were doing a survey at a sporting conference. And I think it was the new Pelican that they were comparing to another, actually even the older Pelicans. And the seal was something that they were looking at on how they seal it together, like the top and bottom, and fuse it. Mm-hmm. So that's something you want to look at when you go to get your kayak. And with our heat is check those seals. And I want to say lifetime, I've seen that it's pieced together. So just be careful with it. The Pelicans are going to last a lot longer than the lifetime. Lifetime's going to be your entry level. And don't get me wrong, I'm totally probably getting them for my kids too, or for myself to get started, you know, but the Pelican's the one that's going to last you a lot longer. And then, yeah, you have the pedal drive, which is just huge when you're out there, right?
It definitely gives you some hands free, lets you do a lot more stuff.
All right. This is awesome. I'm loving all the questions. Are they still releasing trout every Friday? The last time I went down there, I didn't see any. Have you noticed specifically?
The last time, I mean, I haven't been down there on a Friday in probably about a month, but as far as I know, I don't see why they haven't been, because it's been Fridays. I know they changed it a few months back. They were doing it on Thursdays a couple times, but there's not a schedule, to be honest with you. Most of the time they do, but sometimes they can't. A lot of times when you're out there, when they're going to stock, most people are kind of hoping they're going to stock. It's a mystery. There's only one way to find out. You gotta get down there in the morning if you wanna know. That's all. That's how it is. I know, but it hasn't been guaranteed the past couple months.
No, and it's hard right now. And honestly, with the summer heat, and that is a cool water fish. If I would even say that if you went out there and you didn't see it, and it was a recent Friday, it's really hot, and they're either going to do it way early when it's cooler in the day, or they might even just not stock for this month and wait because it's going to drop this next week right below 100 again. So it's definitely safer to stock in cooler weather with especially those kind of fish. And it's the same thing with catfish. Even they can only handle so much heat. How many striped bass are in Lake Mead? No one will ever know. It's kind of like what's really the bottom of Lake Mead. Everyone guesses it's around like 300 feet. But it's so deep. So yeah, there's tons of fish. Tons.
Millions and millions.
And would you also say, like, when you're fishing with those jointed bait, it's all in the presentation too, right?
100%, yeah. Mm-hmm. Put some time in with those jointed baits or whatever your bait is and figure out what the best action is and try it. And if it doesn't work, try something different. Just keep changing it up and try to just put some time in and get used to what that best action is for whatever lure you go with.
Well said. The mussels, the quagga mussels effect on the water and the fish is that they're filter feeders. And so they actually add a lot of vegetation to the water because they keep the lake a little cleaner, or not cleaner, but clearer, which adds more vegetation also. So that actually makes it kind of worse in a way. So good for the fish, not necessarily good, not necessarily good for the angler. And honestly, the striped bass will eat them. So actually, that's another thing. We've done some surveys and checked at like the Striper Club tournaments, and we'll do a gut check. And we've seen some mussels in the fish. So they'll think they're full and they're not actually getting a nutrient out of it. So that's the disadvantage too. They are not telling. Good point. Yeah, it gets a little crowded down there, and especially with COVID and everything, it's probably gotten a little intense for stocking. So they're probably going to change it up as much as possible, but they will regularly stock.
Yeah, we all love those waters, guys. We got to do the best that we can to leave the area looking like the way it was when we got there. just do our best to always pick up, if not all your own trash, if you see some trash, just pick it up. It'll help out the area, and it'll help everything out, because it's really it's really a bummer to go down there and see a really beautiful area get trashed. And I think that was part of the reason, or what I think Tyler was talking about.
Yeah, we gotta all do our part, and we're gonna do more talks too about all of that. But one of the cool things too is we do have this slide for Ethical Angler. Actually has like a whole coordinated effort in fishing responsibly. So not always keeping that monster fish that you catch, leaving some to be a brood species so that they can reproduce well. And even the really small ones aren't going to have the best fillets on them. So leaving them to grow bigger is always good. So getting those middle ones is actually kind of the best if you're going to keep your fish. And hooking them well, if they swallow it, they're probably not going to survive very well. So you might want to keep that fish too. Don't necessarily throw it back. The birds want live fish too, so they're not always going to catch whatever you think that you're leaving behind. And then, like Brendan was saying, respect your waters and land and your fellow anglers, and let them go and grow. So those are kind of together. And then selective harvest, same thing. And then pass it on. So if you love fishing, share it with the next generation. They're stuck online doing homework all day, and we're stuck teaching them most days. So get them out on the weekends and in your downtime and after school, because it's about to cool off, and share fishing with them. We'll be able to stock more as it cools off too. So we'll have some more catfish coming up, and then some more trout in the urban ponds. So go ahead and hit the park after school one day. So just spread it, keep it going. Go back to this real quick, show you guys the fishing report. Every single week we work on this for you, Nicole and I, and each region has their own, and you can check if you're gonna go up north and catch some pike on Cummins. That's another awesome predatory fish. That'll be in the eastern region, so you can check their report too. And we don't burn any places when we do it, but we do like give some cool tips and tricks. And if we see a certain lure's working better that week than others, as the seasons change, it'll get more dramatic. So that's definitely something to check. Post it on our website. Answer this other question for you, Brendan. What safety equipment do you recommend? And I was going to ask that too, with the light and stuff like that, right, in the mornings?
Definitely have some kind of, if you're going to be going out in that night, definitely have multiple lights with you. Obviously, life jackets, all that important stuff. I like to have, like I said, a little emergency pack, something that, you can get at Walmart for, I think, $10. It comes with everything you can think of. It even comes with a little packets of bug repellent. It has like everything in it for like $10. So definitely have one of those on the kayak with you. Man, know the wind. Always check the wind multiple times before you go out, and know what you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with 10 miles an hour winds, then don't go above that. Just always make sure you're looking at the wind. And yeah, I guess as far as safety stuff on the kayak, if you're not comfortable going on the kayak, always bring a buddy with you. Let someone know where you're going. If you're going by yourself, let someone know where you're going before you go out that day, about what area. So if anything happens, we know where you're at, kind of a thing. Other than that, use common sense kind of stuff.
Waterproof case stuff for the phone.
Waterproof case. Always have one of those with you. Always, good for your keys, cell phone, all that good stuff. You always want something that can float. If something were to happen, you want to make sure is floating up for you at least.
And then actually, I think I saw that you upgraded your life jacket. Did you get that angling one so that you can wear it more often?
Yeah, I got more of like a it's more of like a wakeboarding style one, I think. But yeah, I got that one now instead of the traditional orange one.
Awesome. Yeah, they make some awesome, very comfortable jackets for men and women. Um, and I say that because they fit in older adults. They fit throughout a lot more comfortably, and you can still paddle and wear it. And like Brendan was saying, the weather can change out of nowhere. I know my first jobs were out on Lake Mead, and there were some really rough weekends where people couldn't get off the water fast enough, and there were a lot of close calls. So even if you checked the weather, be prepared for it to turn in a second. So wearing the jacket regularly, having your phone in a light waterproof case in case it does get wet and you get flipped into the water, you can still call for help and have that rescue number available. If you do go out to Lake Mead, they do have an emergency number directly, and it's faster than calling 911. That way they don't have to dispatch you. So I do recommend having the Lake Mead emergency number when you go out there. Pack it in, pack it out, bring in a couple extra garbage bags, one for you and one for what you find. It's also better for the aquatic wildlife and the bighorn sheep and the other wildlife that's out and about. You don't want them eating that garbage. And people don't always mean to get their garbage into the water. Those crazy windy days, stuff goes flying in the water too. So it's a win-win situation if you can pack a little extra garbage out. And have that fishing license also can be stored on your phone now, so you don't even have to print it out and worry about that getting wet anymore. If it is someone's first time catching a fish, takemefishing.org also gives first time catch certificate. Please let us know, and we always love seeing those pictures. Oh yeah, so here's another awesome one.
Okay, real quick to the
Yes.
lady or gentleman who asked a question about the weight of the Garcia lure, 5.7 ounces.
All right. Steven. Awesome. Making sure he was still here. All right, so we have a couple more open. And I didn't mark these off as we answered them all. All right. Oh, Windfinder app is awesome. Yes, I agree with that one too. And Windy. So windfinder.com and Windy also is a good one.
I've heard good things about Windy. I use a Windfinder myself, but I've heard some good stuff about Windy also.
And it's, in my opinion, it's good to have a couple options because I even use the basic weather report and then I use a NOAA weather report and I kind of collaborate them into guessing what the weather conditions are going to be sometimes. Oh, the green lights definitely help attract stripers. Do you use lights at all?
I do not. I mean, if I'm gonna do some bait fishing at night over at Mead, it definitely doesn't hurt to have them. If you've ever used them before, they're pretty awesome. You'll see just schools of bait fish just circling round and round underneath you. So it definitely attracts the bait fish over to you. It works. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you based on experience whether if a green light works better than a white light. I've heard good things about both, but it does attract the bait fish.
Awesome. I'm going to jump around on these questions, you guys. We are getting to all of them and so excited that you guys are so interested. So I did want to ask this too, and Davian asked for us, what is your personal best now?
I just beat it last week. I'm up to 25 pounds. It was 19 and I just got it up there.
What pound test are you using to get those big swim baits in?
So like I'm always gonna say me personally, because I don't ever think my style is, everyone's gonna do different stuff. It's all a preference. So I'm just gonna tell you what I like to use. Out there, usually 25-pound tests, monofilament is what I go with.
And that's not just for the swim bait or for the fish too, but it's that stronger because these guys have teeth too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, they have teeth. I mean, I can't show you right now, but that last fish I caught actually bit my thumb and left a big scab on my thumb for about a week. So they bite and they make you bleed.
All right, so we're gonna go back. Blair, I am actually gonna write your name down and get you more information later too. This will be recorded. Or, so the question was, where should we go to target stripers and can I use a fly rod? Yes. If you can go out like and float tube and get out a little further, it's going to be better. And it's, I would say fly rod fishing for striper is going to get better as we get cooler. So October and November, and then you can even go right off of Hemingway fishing pier area and the Boulder Beach. Anywhere you can get to shore in the next couple months, it's just going to get better to be able to get out there a little further and either float tube or even fish from shore. And definitely using streamers. Will you do a similar program for trout? Yes, we will. Thank you for coming. I figured I'd wait to continue this fish series for trout once it cools off. So probably beginning in November or end of October when I start. Well, it'll be November. And they might do one sooner up north. And we're going to have a fish camp. We just started planning that next month for the kids and for the adults. So there'll be a lot more stuff for everyone. I wanted to do this one again because this one I don't think has gotten to YouTube yet. And so since we've gotten better about uploading these, this one should be the one that goes on YouTube. I am currently I am currently holding the skunk record. What are the fish? Where are the fish hiding? And what are they doing right now? What do you look for when you go out? Even like for someone from shore.
If you're talking about like mead right now, I'd get out there early as you can, you know, right when that, so you're out there when the sun comes up, because that's when the shad are going to be kind of more in the shallow area. That's your best chance for maybe some topwater action in the morning from shore. If you're talking about the river or Mojave, it is tough all around with all those weeds and stuff going on right now. And yeah, it's been a little tough on the river right now with all that stuff going on. But striper are moving downriver this time of year too. They're headed down, from what I understand. I think you're muted, Abby.
Abby, you're muted still.
Thank you. I was typing, so I didn't want to talk over you or type over you. If they are trolling with the Tony Garcia behind the kayak, do they need a pedal kayak?
No, definitely not. You can make it happen with a paddle. It's I'd pick your times if you're going on the river. Once again, if you're talking about safety, for first and foremost, know the more you go out there, the more you'll kind of learn that area. But I will tell you, if you're going out in the evening time, anywhere between 6 to 7 p.m. anywhere to midnight, that's when the water's moving the most, guys. That's when the current's really pumping. And if you're not comfortable fishing at night or fishing when the current's moving, definitely maybe get some more time in or some more experience with it first, because the water's definitely kicking, and depending on what's going on underneath the water, or what's as far as what bands are underneath the water or rocks, the water swirls. There's been, I mean, when I'm going on the river at night, sometimes it feels like there's something underneath me pushing me around, because the water just moves around so much. So just be safe out there first and foremost, and just put the time in. I wouldn't say going upriver is better than going down. I saw a question about that earlier, so I'm kind of answering that one. It's all about just getting out there, picking a direction, and just hitting it. Try it deep, try shallow. This time of the year, shallow is like you're going to be getting a lot of grass and weeds. It's just a lot of patience. That's all I have to say.
It's the best way to say it. Yeah, fishing needs a lot of patience. I teach the kids that. We just were able to record and upload a video on our virtual classes too. And yeah, just got to be patient. Teach the littles with the rubber fish. They think they're catching a fish every single time. It's great to get the kids used to casting on their own. Real quick, we're going to answer all these questions, but I did want to take a break. And if you aren't going to stay on, since we're almost reaching an hour, please complete the survey on the way out, just so we know what you're looking for, how we did today. Thank you for supporting conservation education in Nevada. Here's my info. If you have any more questions that we don't get to, or you think of something later on, feel free to message us, and I'll bug Brendan if it's a Brendan specific one. And you can also reach him on YouTube. So thank you guys, and then we'll keep answering some questions. Are you typing one in right now? An answer?
No.
Okay. How far back off your kayak do you let your lure float behind you when you troll?
I honestly do not know. I don't have one of those line counters. When you're out there during the daytime, those big lures float. So when you're out there in the daytime, you can really get an idea of how far it's out there. So that's kind of what I do. Get the line out there, take a look at how far it is, and if I like it, you look at your reel and you can kind of see how much line is missing. You get an idea. It's something it's a feel. That's the only way I can put it. It's kind of once you learn how far it's out there and you get used to it, it's something that you just get used to, especially if you're using that same reel and that line is going out at the same speed.
It's just practice too, right? Like
just practice. Yeah, if you have a line counter reel, there's a lot of good ones out, and a lot of them that have them. You can know exactly how far you're out there.
Yeah. Just get out, practice, be safe. It's addicting. I can definitely tell you that. And I've been out too, and they'll jump right by you. So it's just getting that presentation too that the fish is going to want. And that's a big rule for fly fishing too. But it's fishing, period. The presentation, what's going to get the fish to bite, especially a predatory fish that's chasing a natural food source too. You want what you're giving them to look like the food that they're eating. A lot of times you don't want to scare them off. So you want to have like a good live action. There's some videos too where the guys are testing out lures and showing you how they move. And so ideal speed, it's more for the lure. It's where they're feeding, or top or bottom.
I get this question all the time, and the best answer I've come up with is there's not an exact speed. It matters on a few different things. It's either number one, your pole has a sensitivity on it, so it matters what kind of pole you have, what kind of rod you're using. The lure has its own action. So depending on how fast or what lure you're using, it's going to require a certain speed that you're going to want. And depending on the day or the direction you're going, whether you're going against the current or going downriver with the flow, or if there's some wind, it's all going to change on a given day. So you have to figure out what the best speed is each time you go out. Because I have a fish finder, and it tells me exactly how fast I'm going, and I'm not going the same speed each time. You just have to go the best speed that's going to give you the action that you want with your lure.
Jamie asked about the striper boils too. I've seen some pretty awesome ones. Did you get some good video from some active ones too?
I found a pretty active one earlier in the week, or was it on Saturday morning? Saturday morning when I went out. Pretty active boils.
In the morning though?
In the morning, yep.
Yeah.
And then right around, I want to say maybe around 11, it just they all kind of went down. I mean, they kind of stay in the area, but the boil part of it kind of subsides and they go down. And at that point, you can get them by jigging some swim baits or jigging some little flat fall jigs, butterfly jigs if you have some of those, or bait fishing, live bait, live shad. But they stay in that area. Sometimes even when the boils are done, you can throw some top water and they'll come up for them still.
That's awesome.
It just kind of depends if they're in a kind of a feeding mode or not. When they're attacking, when they're going after shad, they're really aggressive and they kind of attack everything.
Well said. Have you ever seen a boil on the river? I don't believe I have.
Maybe when they're stocking, but I wouldn't consider it a boil. Maybe them chasing some trout around.
Yeah, the boils are mainly because of the feeding school, and on the river it's more of a flow, and it's a totally different pattern. Lake Mead's more still water, so we definitely get more boils and they're more visible too. Are you trolling swim bait or cast and crank?
I do both. I do both. It depends on what's going on and if the water is moving, if it's windy and stuff like that. I'll typically we'll troll a little bit more depending on what's going on, or if I find some spots that I really like or some spots that I've caught some fish at that I consider hot spots. I might be casting some lures in those spots instead of trolling in those areas.
Cool. Have you seen shad schooling? I haven't been able to find them this year like I did last year. Are they in different spots maybe?
I've been finding they're around. I mean, every place I've pretty much gone to this summer, there's been some signs of shad at least. I mean, everywhere from Temple Bar to, there's some signs. There were some signs at Hemingway last time I was going. If you fish in like a real popular spot, it's the Las Vegas Bay Area. That's a very hot spot for shad. Lots of shad up all in that Las Vegas Bay Area. That includes like Government Wash and all that kind of stuff. It's all in that Las Vegas Bay Area. A lot of shad in there usually.
And technically there's a lot of nutrients because that's where our water gets filtered and out. And yeah, there's a lot of nutrients in that water. So it is a good fishing spot. I was gonna make that my background for one of our fishing spots down there. It was awesome. And then the last question, why is the water low? It is low at Mojave. Well, water's low everywhere. Willow Beach goes down throughout the summer as well. And then they'll raise it back up as we get more water back. But every summer the water goes down, just naturally more water use, and we didn't get the rain like we have gotten in the past. So it's definitely going to be a little lower than usual. But it'll go back up as fall continues. They'll release some from the dam. So definitely check the Bureau of Reclamation. They actually give you the water levels and even the temperatures.
I think it was last year around November-ish time, December-ish time, and I really noticed the water starting to go back up again.
Awesome. Yeah, I did a kayaking tour a few years ago, and they're like, just to warn you, the water is going to be going out while you're on the water. We're like, awesome. So we definitely had our kayaks out and stuck for a minute as the water was going up and down.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thank you all for hanging out for the whole time. This is probably the longest webinar we've ever done. Please fill the survey out. It'll just take you a second, and it gives us a lot of good information on what you guys would like to see next and what we can do better. So thank you, Brendan, for hosting with me today. It was awesome, as always.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for coming and hanging out with us for about an hour there.
Definitely. Nicole, thank you for your help today and every day. And we will see you all next time. And Nicole and I are going to practice our cast next week. So if you have an extra hour, we'll show you how to learn fly fishing right in your own front yard. Have a good night. Thank you. Bye, guys.